Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.
Many international fashion brands have refused to use cotton from China's Xinjiang region. They cite concerns over forced labor. But forced labor in China isn't just limited to Xinjiang. NTD's Chung Chun has more.
A book is bringing a face to forced labor victims in China. U.S.-based Chinese journalist Amelia Pang published her book titled Made in China earlier this year. It's about a Chinese prisoner, an SOS letter, and the hidden cost of America's thirst for cheap goods. The book spotlights a prisoner of conscience, Sun Yi. He was detained at the Masanja labor camp in China's northeast Liaoning province, all because he refused to give up his beliefs. He practices Falun Gong, a spiritual meditation system that teaches the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. It's been brutally persecuted in China since 1999. Inside the labor camp, Sun was forced to create products out of raw material by hand. One of the products required kneading a type of fibrous cardboard to soften it. The material was used to make decorative paper mushrooms. The products were exported to Europe. Not long after Sun began to work, his hands were rubbed raw by the kneading, and his wounds soon became infected. Workers in the camp were given daily quotas to fill. Most days, Sun says he could only sleep around 2 to 4 hours a day in order to create enough products to fill his quota. He recounts being so stressed that he even dreamed of making the paper mushrooms. Eventually, Sun secretly started sneaking handwritten notes into boxes of Halloween decorations he packaged. In 2012, an Oregon woman found one of his notes in a box of foam gravestones. The resulting media reports led to widespread accusation over China's labor practices. Zhang Jing was also detained in the same labor camp. She says she endured a similar experience.
The raw materials used to make handcrafts were all made from cardboard. We had to knead it into paper as soft as tissue. Then we made them into flowers using glue. That glue is very toxic. I rubbed the cardboard into paper petals with my hands every day. Basically, my hands couldn't hold even chopsticks when eating anymore. The skin of my fingers was destroyed by the glue.
Zhang also practices Falun Gong and is from China's northeastern city of Dalian. Zhang now lives in the U.S. She says even now, whenever she sees peeled garlic in the supermarket, her fears and memories from inside the camp rush back to her mind.
I don't want to buy it because when I was detained in Masanja labor camp, I was forced to peel garlic. I had to peel several sacks of garlic every day.
Another Falun Gong practitioner named Yu Ming was an entrepreneur in China. Because of Beijing's persecution of Falun Gong, he spent nearly 12 years in Chinese prisons and labor camps. He says slave laborers ranged from 16 to 70 years old. All of them were forced to work at least 12 hours a day.
When there was too much work to do, prisoners were forced to work 24 hours, even 48 hours. Some prisoners were forced to sleep on the concrete floor or at their workstation.
You said every prison, every labor camp, and every detention center in China has been transformed into a factory using forced labor, adding that every prisoner is now considered a cash cow, though many of them fall ill or die.
The authorities do not check the prisoners' health at all. Even AIDS patients, prisoners with various liver diseases, or when prisoners catch a cold or run a fever, they still have to work on the assembly line.
In her new book, Pang also explained that forced labor is far from the only form of torture used in the camps. In Masanja labor camp, Sun was often shackled by his hands and feet. At one point, he began a hunger strike to protest the abuse. But in response, he was force-fed through his nose. His mouth also was propped open by a metal gag, and hot sauce was poured into his eyes. In her book, Pang says global trade and Western supply chains have now become the Chinese Communist Party's biggest accomplices, and that consumers' pursuit of cheap products is fueling the flames. In 2019, Pang went undercover as a businesswoman and visited a drug rehabilitation center in Shanghai. She observed trucks there coming and going once every 2 hours, seemingly transporting goods out of the facility. Pang says her investigation revealed an important point. Foreign companies are able to investigate whether their partner companies in China are involved in forced labor, but instead they turn a blind eye to suit their personal interests. Pang believes Xinjiang is a good starting point to address the problem. That's because the Chinese regime has invested heavily in the region. It's also an important transportation hub for Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. The infrastructure project deals with foreign, usually poorer countries, bringing Chinese investment and construction projects overseas. Critics say it's known for trapping developing countries with debt. Chang Chun, NTD News.
California's Senate is considering a controversial crime bill that would change what's considered a violent robbery. And it's been attracting attention from local leaders. NTD's Jason Blair has the story.
Right now in the Golden State, robbery is considered a violent offense and is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. But if Senate Bill 82 passes in California's Senate, many robberies would be downgraded from a felony to a misdemeanor, and the maximum penalty for these robberies would decrease to 1 year in county jail.
If someone does not use a weapon, if there isn't serious injury, then it's not a violent crime. In fact, it's a misdemeanor.
The bill would also allow previously convicted robbers to be resentenced. Proponents say most California prisoners are serving extended sentences, which disproportionately impact disabled and minority communities. And the bill's author, State Senator Nancy Skinner, says the move would only clarify the situation so nonviolent crimes don't get charged as violent felonies. But several California leaders voiced their opposition to the bill at a press conference on Tuesday.
This bill makes no sense. It's irresponsible. And it's unnecessary.
The district attorney of El Dorado County said Senate Bill 82 seems to be part of a negative trend going on in the state.
Where there's been this increasing level of tolerance for violent crime.
A common concern is that the measure would actually encourage more crime instead of help reduce it.
That does nothing for these devastated victims. Victims are just going to wonder why responsible leaders encouraged robbery in the first place.
How is the state going to afford to be able to redo all of these robbery cases when we have a budget crisis due to the pandemic, which is a huge concern?
Attendees of the press conference hope to raise more awareness of the bill to help Californians learn how it might negatively affect them. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.